This week's episode is about each of you. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. As you can see, we are back at the house under construction this week. Behind me is the living room window, not quite completed. And I am sitting on what will be a bench that will face into the dining room with the living room behind me. Right now, it's where a window used to be. And you're wondering what this house renovation has to do with you. More than you'd think. My wife and I were recently talking about our house in New Hampshire. We lived there for several years. It was a house that was about 120 years old, and no matter how much work we put into it, there was always more to be done. And it never really felt like home. It was a house, and we were grateful for that, but it wasn't really anything more than a place to put our stuff and have shelter. This house has a completely different feel. Yes, it is an absolute disaster right now. There is a ton of work that still needs to be done. And yet, it holds the promise of home. A house that is more than just a building and a place to put our stuff. In thinking about the difference between our two houses, I think about how differently we see ourselves and how God sees us. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of days where I feel like there is still so much work left to be done in me. Sometimes kind of like a disaster zone. Those days when frustration is high, when exhaustion is right there, and that promise seems far away. It's those days that I need most to remember that I am God's beloved, that God sees the promise of the completed work in me, that I don't have to be perfect. I can be a disaster. I can be frustrated. I can lose my temper, and God still loves me anyway. And I thought that y'all might need to hear that. Given the pressures of the current political climate and all the work that is to be done around us and in us, it's good to be reminded that however we are, wherever we are, whatever we're doing or capable of being, God loves us and claims us as God's very own beloved. And that, my friends, is the good news. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.